ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಈ ಶುಭ ಮುಂಜಾನೆಯ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರಗಳು. ನಾನು ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಎಚ್ ಎನ್ ಶೈಲಜಾ ತಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲರನ್ನು ಬೆಂಗಳೂರಿನ ಪ್ರತಿಷ್ಠಿತ ದಯಾನಂದ ಸಾಗರ ವಿಶ್ವವಿದ್ಯಾಲಯದ 5ನೇ ವಾರ್ಷಿಕ ಘಟಿಕೋತ್ಸವಕ್ಕೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಗಣ್ಯರ ಪರವಾಗಿ ಆಡಳಿತ ವರ್ಗದ ಪರವಾಗಿ ಹೃತ್ಪೂರ್ವಕವಾಗಿ ಸ್ವಾಗತಿಸುತ್ತಿದ್ದೇನೆ. A very good morning to one and all present here. I, Dr. H. N. Shailaja, Associate Professor, School of Commerce and Management Studies, on behalf of the University, extend a hearty welcome to the 5th Annual Convocation Ceremony of Dayananda Sagar University, Bengaluru. The infection caused by coronavirus, named as COVID-19, was declared a global pandemic by WHO on March 11th, 2020, and since then, it has disturbed the lives of millions and billions across the world. Masks, social distancing, and sanitizing oneself has become the norm worldwide. While people staying away from their families and friends was one aspect, people also lost their livelihoods, people lost their loved ones. We, the people, however, braced ourselves with the vaccines and resumed our daily activities, facing the challenges brought out by this deadly virus. With the recent Omicron mutant being the dangerous of them all, we need to be vigilant than before. In this view, following the government directive, the 5th convocation of Dayananda Sagar University has gone completely virtual, wherein we confer the degrees to the students virtually. Convocation Day being the most celebrated day for a student, we do understand that you all want to be amidst your friends, with your families, to celebrate your success. But we do understand the risk of having an assembly of people where one contact could create much disturbances and dangers in the days to come. In this regard, the university has organized the 5th convocation in complete virtual mode, and we are sure the students and the parents do understand the concern that we have towards you. Thank you for your understanding. On this day, the 29th of December 2021, for the 5th convocation ceremony of Dayananda Sagar University, I take immense pleasure in welcoming the dignitaries to the academic procession. The academic procession is led by the Controller of Examinations, Dr. Anita Ramalingam, who bears the mace. I hereby welcome the honorable members of the Academic Council, Dr. Veni Madhavan, Dr. Sadagopan Yes, Dr. S. Ravishankar, Dr. S. Raghunathan, Dr. Ganesh Margabandhu, Dr. K. Ramachandra, Shri Anil Pant, Shri Santosh Kumar, Dr. M.D. Karvekar, Dr. Lakshmi S., Dr. Srinivas A., Dr. Pushpa Sarkar, Professor Krishna V., Dr. Sunil More, Professor Nagaraj Subbarao, Dr. Banga M.K., Dr. Ashok A.C. I extend a cordial welcome to Registrar Dr. C. Putmadappa. I also extend a warm welcome to Vice Chancellor Professor Janardhan R. I wish to welcome the Secretary, Dayananda Sagar Institutions, Mr. Gali Swami. I hereby welcome the Member, Board of Governors, Mr. K. Jairaj. I wholeheartedly welcome the Member, Board of Governors, Mr. Rohan Sagar. A hearty welcome to the Member, Board of Governors, Ms. Tintisha Sagar. I extend a hearty welcome to the Honorable Vice Chancellor, Dr. K. N. Balasubramania Murthy. I extend a warm welcome to Honorable Pro-Chancellor, Dr. Premachandra Sagar. I extend a heartfelt welcome to the Honorable Chief Guest, Dr. Vasudeva K. Atre, Padma Bhushan and Padma Vibhushan Awardee, former Director, DRDO, and former Advisor to the Defence Minister, Government of India. I take this opportunity to welcome the Honorable Chancellor of Dayananda Sagar University, Dr. Hemachandra Sagar. On behalf of Dayananda Sagar University, we thank all the dignitaries for joining us virtually for the 5th convocation. I take this opportunity to welcome all the students and the parents who have joined us virtually. ಜಯ ಭಾರತ ಜನನಿಯ ತನುಜಾತೆ, ಜಯ ಹೇ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ಮಾತೆ. ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದ ಹೆಮ್ಮೆ ರಾಷ್ಟ್ರಕವಿ ಕುಪ್ಪಳ್ಳಿ ವೆಂಕಟಪ್ಪ ಪುಟ್ಟಪ್ಪ ವಿರಚಿತ ಈ ಗೀತೆಯೊಂದಿಗೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮವನ್ನು ಆರಂಭಿಸೋಣ. ಐ ರಿಕ್ವೆಸ್ಟ್ ದ ಗ್ಯಾದರಿಂಗ್ ಟು ಪ್ಲೀಸ್ ರೈಸ್ ಫಾರ್ ನಾಡಗೀತೆ.
जय भारत जननीय तनुजाते, जय हे कर्नाटक माते, जय सुंदर नदी वनಗಳ ನಾಡೆ, जय हे रस ಋಷಿಗಳ ಬೀಡೆ, ಭೂದೇವಿಯ ಮಕುಟದ ನವಮಣಿಯೇ, ಗಂಧದ ಚಂದ ರೋಷ ಜನನಿಗೆ ಜೀವವು ನಿನ್ನಾವೇಶ ಹಸುರಿನ ಗಿರಿಗಳ ಸಾಲೆ ನಿನ್ನಯ ಕೊರಳಿನ ಮಾಲೆ ಕಪಿಲ ಪತಂಜಲ ಗೌತಮ ಜಿನನುತ ಭಾರತ ಜನನಿಯ ತನುಜಾತೆ ಜಯ ಹೇ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ಮಾತೆ ಶಂಕರ ರಮನುಜ ವಿದ್ಯಾರಣ್ಯ ಬಸವೇಶ್ವರ ಮಧ್ವರ ದಿವ್ಯಾರಣ್ಯ ಬ್ರಹ್ಮ ಷಡಕ್ಷರಿ ಪೊನ್ನ ಪಂಪಲ ಕುಮಿಪತಿ ಜನ್ನ ಕುಮಾರ ವ್ಯಾಸರ ಮಂಗಲ ಧಾಮ ಕವಿ ಕೋಗಿಲೆಗಳ ಪುಣ್ಯ ರಾಮ ನಾನಕ ರಾಮಾನಂದ ಕಬೀರರ ಭಾರತ ಜನನಿಯ ತನುಜಾತೆ ಜಯ ಹೇ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ಮಾತೆ ಕೈಲಪ ಹೊಯ್ಸಳರಾಳಿದ ನಾಡೆ ಕಂಕಣ ಜಕಣರ ನೆಚ್ಚಿನ ಬೀಡೆ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಶರಾವತಿ ತುಂಗ ಕಾವೇರಿಯ ವರರಂಗ ಚೈತನ್ಯ ಪರಮಹಂಸ ವಿವೇಕರ ಭಾರತ ಜನನಿಯ ತನುಜಾತೆ ಜಯ ಹೇ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ಮಾತೆ ಸರ್ವ ಜನಾಂಗದ ಶಾಂತಿಯ ತೋಟ ರಸಿಕರ ಕಂಗಳ ಸೆಳೆಯುವ ನೋಟ ಹಿಂದೂ ಕ್ರೈಸ್ತ ಮುಸಲ್ಮಾನ ಪಾರಸಿಕ ಜೈನ ನೃತ್ಯಾರ ಜಗತನ ಹೋಲುವ ದೊರೆಗಳ ಧಾಮ ನಾಯಕ ವೈಣಿಕರ ರಾಮ ಕನ್ನಡ ನುಡಿ ಕುಣಿದಾಡುವ ದೇಹ ಕನ್ನಡ ತಾಯಿಯ ಮಕ್ಕಳ ದೇಹ ಜಯ ಭಾರತ ಜನನಿಯ ತನುಜಾತೆ ಜಯ ಹೇ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ಮಾತೆ ಜಯ ಸುಂದರ ನದಿ ವನಗಳ ನಾಡೆ ಜಯ ಹೇ ರಸ ಋಷಿಗಳ ಬೀಡೆ ಜಯ ಭಾರತ ಜನನಿಯ ತನುಜಾತೆ ಜಯ ಹೇ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ಮಾತೆ
Prayer is aligning ourselves with the purpose of God. Quotes E. Stanley Jones. I now take the pleasure of inviting Ms. Vaishnavi, student of MSc, School of Basic and Applied Sciences, to kindly invoke God's blessings for us all.
Oh
Thank you, Vaishnavi, for the soulful rendition. I now invite our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Dr. K.N.B. Murthy, to welcome the gathering and to present the annual report of the University.
Honorable Chief Guest of the 5th Annual Convocation of Dayanand Sagar University, Padma Bhushan and Padma Vibhushan awardee and the former scientific advisor to Raksha Mantri of Government of India, Dr. Vasudev K. Atre, Honorable Chancellor of Dayanand Sagar University, Dr. D. Hemachandra Sagar, Honorable Pro-Chancellor of Dayanand Sagar University, Dr. D. Premachandra Sagar, Secretary of MGVP Trust, Sri Galiswamy, Joint Secretary of MGPV Trust, and BOG member, Mr. Tintisa Sagar, Joint Secretary of MGPV Trust and BOG member, Ms. Rohan Sagar, Pro Vice Chancellor, Ms. R. Janardhan, Registrar, Dr. C. Puttamadappa, Controller of Examinations, Dr. Anita Ramalingam, members of the Management Committee of Mahatma Gandhi Vidyapita Trust, members of Board of Governors, members of Board of Management, Academic Council, Research and Innovation Council, Finance Committee, the heads of various Dayanand Sagar group of institutions, deans of various schools of study and faculty, as well as staff of Dayanand Sagar University, parents of graduating students, distinguished guests, colleagues, and my young graduates. I have great pleasure in welcoming you to the 5th convocation of Dayanand Sagar University, Bengaluru. We are indeed very honored to have Dr. D. Hemachandra Sagar, Honorable Chancellor, presiding over the convocation today. It is my privilege to introduce and welcome the dignitaries on the dais. Dr. Vasudev Kalkunte Atre was born in 1939 in Bengaluru. He completed his BE in Electrical Engineering from University Visvesvaraya College of Engineering, Bengaluru, then part of Mysore University in 1961. A master's degree from Indian Institute of Science, Bengaluru in 1963. He was awarded a PhD in Electrical Engineering from University of Waterloo, Canada in 1967. Thereafter, he worked as a professor of electrical engineering at Technical University of Nova Scotia, Canada until 1980. He was a visiting professor at IISc till 1977. He is a former member of Defense Research and Development Service, DRDS. In 1980, Atre joined DRDO at the Naval Physical and Oceanographic Laboratory, Cochin, and became its director in 1984. He was later appointed as Chief Controller R&D of DRDO. In February 2000, he replaced Abdul Kalam as the Director General of DRDO and a scientific advisor to Raksha Mantri, serving as scientific advisor to the then Defense Minister, George Fernandez. He retired in October 2004. Atre was awarded Padma Bhushan in 2000 by the then President K.R. Narayanan. He was bestowed with Padma Vibhushan Award, India's second highest civilian award, in 2016. He is now the chairman of IIEST Shibpur, Howrah. In 2015, Karnataka Science and Technology awarded him with an Academic's Lifetime Achievement Award for 2014. Doctor of Science by VTU in 2015. Lifetime Achievement Award from Indian National Academy of Engineering in 2016 and Lifetime Achievement Award from DRDO in 2016. We extend an affectionate welcome to Dr. V.K. Atre, who has kindly consented to deliver the 5th convocation address of Dayanand Sagar University. A warm welcome to you, sir. Dr. D. Hemachandra Sagar is the chairman of Mahatma Gandhi Vidyapita Trust, Sagar Hospitals, as well as Sagar Group of Companies, and Chancellor of Dayananda Sagar University. He did his schooling in Bangalore, obtaining a MBBS degree from Jawaharlal Nehru Medical College run by KLE Society in Belgaum, and MS degree from Gulbarga. He worked as a surgeon in Marthas and Jaslok hospitals before taking up an active role in the development of Dayananda Sagar Group of Institutions as one of the progressive, proactive education institutions in the country. He seems to have very naturally picked up the art of medicine to relieve disease and pain from his esteemed mother, Dr. Chandramma Sagar, and administrative qualities, leadership, as well as sharp intellect from his father, Sri Dayananda Sagar. He has been the General Secretary of Karnataka State Private Education Institutions, as well as Karnataka State Unaided Private Engineering College Association, KUPECA, the President of Karnataka State Private Pharmacy Colleges Association, President of National Voters Forum. He is a recipient of National Environmental Award from University of Agricultural Sciences, Dharwad. He was elected as a member to the Karnataka Legislative Assembly in 2008 from Chikpat constituency, Bengaluru. He has been actively involved in various philanthropic activities that cater to the needs of society by organizing charity medical relief funds, camps, and providing facilities for social endeavors. He has been providing excellent guidance to DSI community from his rich experience and outlook. Sir, it's indeed our pleasure to have you with us this morning. Dr. D. Premachandra Sagar is currently the Vice Chairman of Mahatma Gandhi Vidya Peter Trust, Sagar Hospitals, as well as Sagar Group of Companies, and Pro-Chancellor of Dayananda Sagar University. He studied his pre-university at National College, Bengaluru, MBBS from JJM Medical College, Davangere. He served Karnataka Pradesh Congress Committee as a member, Karnataka Pradesh Youth Congress Committee as its Vice President, as well as Joint Secretary, member of Legislative Council, Karnataka during 1990 and 96. He was a Minister for Youth Services in Veerappa Moili's government for a brief period. He moved away from active politics as it did not suit his style of progressive leadership. He decided to pursue his passion of nation building through Dayananda Sagar Group of Institutions by experimenting with innovative ideas to offer quality education at affordable costs. He has been responsible for large-scale growth of group institutions by bringing in rich political and overseas experience. He is regarded as one of the innovative education leaders in the country for modeling the education to meet industry requirements by establishing innovation labs on the state-of-the-art campuses jointly with the industry leaders. He established Darbi Foundation with an objective to provide incubation support for building robust as well as sustainable business models to become profitable ventures. He has visited over 67 countries of the world, keenly observed and learned the best practices and adopted some suitable and relevant practices among Dayananda Sagar Group of Institutions, hospitals, and companies to accrue greater outcomes. He is well known for proactive leadership, sustainable passion, empathy, simplicity, and experimentation among DSI community. Above all, he is very easily approachable. It's my pleasure to extend a cordial welcome to our beloved Pro-Chancellor, Dr. D. Premachandra Sagar. It's my honor to extend a warm welcome to Sri Galiswamy, the Secretary of MGPV Trust, Mrs. Tinte Sagar, Joint Secretary of MGVP Trust, Ms. Rohan Sagar, Joint Secretary of MGPV Trust, Mr. R. Janardhan, the Pro Vice Chancellor of DSU, Sri K. Jairaj, Advisor, Professor H.P. Kincha, the Evangelist, Dr. C. Puttumarappa, the Registrar of DSU, Dr. Anita Ramalingam, the Controller of Examinations. It is my pleasure to extend a heartfelt welcome to the members of MGVP Trust, Board of Governors, Board of Management, Academic Council, Finance Committee, Research and Innovation Council of Dayanand Sagar University, invitees, heads of various Dayanand Sagar institutions, deans and chairpersons of Dayanand Sagar University, the staff of Dayanand Sagar institutions, graduates, and their proud parents and friends from press and media. I have pleasure in extending my heartiest congratulations to 1,428 graduates, including 8 PhDs, who will receive their degrees today, and special congratulations to 62 rank holders who received medals from Dr. V.K. Atre, Padma Vibhushan and Padma Bhushan awardee, former scientific advisor to Raksha Mantri, Government of India, and heartiest congratulations also to the parents and family and their family who have provided their encouragement to the students. The graduates of Dayanand Sagar University are among the best minds in the country as well as in the world. As the students progress in their professional careers, we would like to see them among the achievers who can change the world for better. We would like to see how these students showcase their innovation and draw out of the box thinking and deep skills. We want our students to be the leaders of change of the organizations they serve, the country they work for, and the world. I urge the students, the graduates, to uphold the values of honesty, integrity, truthfulness, professional ethics throughout their lives. We would like to be very happy and wish all the best to our students, and we would request them to keep in touch with the alma mater. And they are going to become the part of the growing family of Dayanand Sagar University. We wish them all success in their future endeavors. Once again, it's my pleasure to welcome all of you to Dayanand Sagar University Annual Convocation 2021. Let me present a brief report, annual report of Dayanand Sagar University. Dayanand Sagar University has a vision to be a center of excellence in education, research and training, innovation and entrepreneurship, and to produce citizens with exceptional leadership qualities to serve national and global needs. The founder aspired that the professionalism is to be built on strong ethical foundation in Dayanand Sagar institutions, and strongly believed that the management, infrastructure, staff and students are the 4 pillars of an institution whose commitment is needed for excellence. MGVP Trust established Dayanand Sagar University as a state private university through a government notification, and Dayanand Sagar University has been admitting 40% of the candidates from Karnataka through the entrance exam conducted by Government of Karnataka, and 60% through its own entrance exam for admissions known as DSAT. DSU has been known as one of the progressive and proactive young universities in the state and country for its unparalleled infrastructure, dynamic pedagogy, as well as assessment techniques and high-quality faculty, with more than 50% of them having doctorates from premier institutes, and a student body with inquiring mind. Some of the distinguished features of Dayananda Sagar University during this year are as follows. A total of 1,998 students have joined university during this academic year. Placement training department of the university was able to invite about 148 companies, including 3 international companies for campus recruitment, which in turn offered 514 job offers, including 3 international offers and multiple placements to some of the students. Research-oriented faculty of the university across all schools was successful in receiving a funding of 100 lakhs from various research funding agencies. DSU has received a consulting revenue of 1 lakh and training revenue of 1.15 lakhs during the year. Faculty of various departments under different schools of study have published 237 scholarly research articles in 17 national journals, 138 international journals, and 42 in national conferences, 22 international conferences, 18 book chapters, and 5 invited articles. Students in association with the faculty of various departments under different schools of study have published 34 scholarly articles. DSU has filed 16 patent applications during the year to protect the IP created. A total of 62 research scholars have enrolled to PhD program across 10 departments during the year. Departments under various schools of study have organized 110 seminars, 15 faculty development programs, 3 conferences during the year, with more than 300 seminars and conference workshops being attended by the faculty across the various schools of study. University has signed MOU with 15 organizations for collaborations on topics of mutual interest during the year. Students of computer science and technology have started 2 startups, namely the Gromers and FCOM during the year. Dr. Pushpamala has been presented with the Best Researcher Award 2020 by IEEE Bangalore section for her research efforts and contributions. The final year students, Ashish T. Reddy and others from ENC department have filed a patent on a study and apparatus of non-invasive health monitoring unit for common disease diagnosis under the guidance of Dr. Gayatri K.M. DSU has received Best Emerging University of the Year award from Times Business Award 2021 Bangalore, organized by Times Group on September 2021. Thank you. I extend a warm welcome to all of you once again. Mr. Chancellor, I have the honor to request you, sir, to declare the convocation open.
This convocation of Dayananda Sagar University, Bangalore, has been conveyed to confirm degrees upon the candidates who have been examined, found successful, and certified to be worthy of receiving the degrees. I declare the convocation open. Let the candidates be presented.
The candidates who belong to Doctor of Philosophy, Bachelor of Arts in Journalism and Mass Communication degree under the School of Arts and Humanities, Master of Science and Bachelor of Science degrees under School of Basic and Applied Sciences, Master of Business Administration, Executive Master of Business Administration, Bachelor of Business Administration and Bachelor of Commerce degrees under the School of Commerce and Management Studies, Master of Technology, Bachelor of Technology and Bachelor of Computer Engineering, Bachelor of Vocational Degrees under the School of Engineering, Doctor of Pharmacy, Master of Pharmacy, Master of Physiotherapy, Master of Science in Nursing, Bachelor of Pharmacy, Bachelor of Physiotherapy, Post-Basic Bachelor of Science in Nursing, and Post-Bachelor of Science in Nursing degrees under the School of Health Sciences. Please rise from your seats. Sir, the above candidates present here are set out in the list for the said degrees, and they have been examined and found qualified for the respective degrees, to which I pray they may be admitted.
By virtue of the authority vested in me as Chancellor of this university, I admit you to your respective degrees of Doctor of Philosophy, Master of Science, Master of Technology, Executive Master of Business Administration, Master of Business Administration, Doctor of Pharmacy, Master of Pharmacy, Master of Physiotherapy, Master of Science in Nursing, Bachelor of Arts in Journalism and Mass Communication, Bachelor of Science, Bachelor of Business Administration, Bachelor of Commerce, Bachelor of Technology, Bachelor of Computer Applications, Bachelor of Vocation, Bachelor of Pharmacy, Bachelor of Physiotherapy, Bachelor of Science in Nursing and Post-Basic Bachelor of Science in Nursing under the School of Arts and Humanities, School of Basic and Applied Sciences, School of Commerce and Management, School of Engineering, and School of Health Sciences under Dayanand Sagar University. And I charge you that ever in your life, in conversation and conduct, you show yourself worthy of the same. By virtue of the authority vested in me as Chancellor of this university, I admit also the rest of the candidates whose names are set out in the list to their respective degrees in absentia.
I request the Pro-Chancellor to administer the pledge to the candidates.
I solemnly pledge to utilize my knowledge, experience, and skills for the advancement of the universe with humility and devotion.
I solemnly pledge to utilize my knowledge, experience, and skills for the advancement of the universe with humility and devotion.
I will remain a conscientious and responsible citizen and will work to conserve the environment with its diversity.
I will remain a conscientious and responsible citizen and will work to conserve the environment with its diversity.
I will adhere to the highest ethical standards to pursue and express objective truth without fear or favor.
I will adhere to the highest ethical standards to pursue and express objective truth without fear or favor.
I will not use my professional knowledge contrary to the laws of humanity. I pledge to dedicate my life to the service of humanity and practice my profession in complete honesty with conscience, uprightness and integrity, and to uphold the honor and dignity of my alma mater.
I will not use my professional knowledge contrary to the laws of humanity. I pledge to dedicate my life to the service of humanity and practice my profession in complete honesty with conscience, uprightness and integrity, and to uphold the honor and dignity of my alma mater.
I commit to the above as a proud ambassador of Dayanand Sagar University.
I commit to the above as a proud ambassador of Dayanand Sagar University.
Thank you, sir. Now the most awaited moment of the day. We are all set to confer the degrees to the PhD degree holders and present the medals to the medalists. And to do the honors, may I request Dr. Anita Ramalingam, Controller of Examinations, to please call out the names of the doctoral degree holders and the medalists.
Good morning, one and all. First of all, I would like to congratulate the graduates of class 2021. You all are really exceptional because you have dealt with multiple dimensions of the unfortunate COVID-19 pandemic, but still forged the path of glory. I wish we had the opportunity of celebrating your accomplishments in person, but for this Omicron and the orders of Government of Karnataka for banning the academic events. I apologize to all of you on behalf of entire family of Dayanand Sagar University. I am proud to announce that 1,428 students are graduating from Dayanand Sagar University this year across the School of Basic and Applied Sciences, School of Arts and Humanities, School of Engineering, School of Commerce and Management, and School of Health Sciences. Today I am privileged to read out the names of the candidates who are awarded PhD degrees by Dayanand Sagar University and the medalists across all the programs of Dayanand Sagar University. First of all, let me read out the PhD scholars. The first candidate is Mr. Murugaya Basavan Kattimath, who has pursued his PhD under the discipline of Mechanical Engineering in the Faculty of Engineering and Technology, under the guidance of Dr. Sarvanan. His research title is Design and Optimization of a Reliable Rotor System Using Axisymmetric Model. The second candidate is Mr. Ramachandra Reddy Asodi, who has pursued his PhD in the discipline of Pharmaceutical Chemistry in the Faculty of Pharmaceutical Sciences. His research title is Separation and Quantification of Amino Acids and its Related Compounds by Advanced Chromatographic Techniques under the guidance of Dr. Murugan. The third candidate is Gayatri R., who pursued her PhD in the discipline of Management Studies under the Faculty of Commerce and Management Studies, and her title is An Exploratory Study on Development of HR Analytics, Competency Model and its Impact on the Organization's Decision-Making Process. The fourth candidate is V. Suma Avani, who has pursued her PhD in the discipline of Computer Science and Engineering under the Faculty of Engineering and Technology. Her research title is Human Facial Expression Recognition and Classification Using the Properties of Geometrical Features of Various Facial Regions. The fifth candidate is Mr. Praveen Kulkarni, who has pursued his PhD in the discipline of Computer Science and Engineering under the Faculty of Engineering and Technology. His research title is A Novel Approach for Grading of Human Emotions Using Data Analytics under the guidance of Dr. Rajesh. The sixth candidate is Mrs. Ekta Maini, also from Computer Science and Engineering under the Faculty of Engineering and Technology, and her research title is Leveraging Machine Learning Techniques for Improving Healthcare Opportunities in India under the guidance of Dr. Bondu Venkateshwaralu. Seventh candidate is Mr. Sofikul Islam, who has pursued his PhD under the discipline of Pharmaceutical Chemistry in the Faculty of Pharmaceutical Sciences, and his research title is Validated Chromatographic Methods for Quantification of New Related Compounds in Drug Substances by RP-HPLC Techniques under the guidance of Dr. Murugan. The eighth candidate is Mr. Pankaj Satpathy, who did his PhD in the discipline of biochemistry under the Faculty of Basic and Applied Sciences. His research title is Phytobioactive Intervention on Diabetic Neuropathy and Microbiome Dysfunction in Drosophila under the guidance of Dr. Farhan and Dr. Sunil More. These are the 8 PhD candidates PhD awardees of Dayanand Sagar University for class 2021. Now, I would like to call upon the names of the medalists, so-called the toppers of the classes of all the programs of Dayanand Sagar University. First of all, let me start with the Bachelors of Arts in Journalism and Mass Communication. Miss Vanilla GS has topped the class with 8.84 CGPA, getting the first rank and a gold medal. Congratulations, Vanilla. Adya Chidanand, who has secured 8.67 CGPA, has stood second rank in BA Journalism. R. Sri Lakshmi, who has secured 8.59 CGPA, has stood third place and bagging the silver medal in Bachelor of Arts in Journalism. Now coming to School of Basic and Applied Sciences, I would call upon the name of Lakshmi PS, who has got 8.99 CGPA in MSc Microbiology, topping the class and bagging the gold medal. The next name is Siddharth Pratim Deka, who has secured CGPA of 8.61 and stood second rank in MSc Microbiology. Mesbeen Parveen has secured 8.56 CGPA and has stood third rank in MSc Microbiology. Now coming to Master of Science in Biotechnology, Suman Saurabh secured 9.22 CGPA and has stood first rank in MSc Biotechnology. S. Pooja has secured 9.08 CGPA, bagging the second rank and the silver medal in MSc Biotechnology. Meghana K. has secured 8.96 CGPA, bagging the third rank and the silver medal in MSc Biotechnology. The next faculty is MSc Biochemistry. Harshita N. has secured 9.54 CGPA and has bagged first rank and the gold medal in MSc Biochemistry. Kishore Kumar Reddy has scored 9.09 CGPA and has bagged the second rank and the silver medal in MSc Biochemistry. Veetha Ramesh has scored 9 CGPA and has bagged third rank in MSc Biochemistry. Coming to Bachelor of Science in Basic and Applied Sciences School, Geetika Y has scored 9.63 CGPA and has scored first rank and the gold medal. Medha Nagaraj has secured 9.42 CGPA and has bagged the second rank. Tejaswini Singh has scored 9.37 CGPA and has bagged third rank and the silver medal. Coming to School of Commerce and Management, we have 4 programs here: Master of Business Administration, Executive Master of Business Administration, Bachelor of Business Administration, and Bachelor of Commerce. Coming to Masters of Business Administration, Shruti HM has secured 9.02 CGPA with first rank and the gold medal. Binoy Samuel Matthews has secured 8.77 CGPA, stands second rank and a silver medal. Parthasarathi Deshpande has secured 8.75 CGPA with a third rank and the silver medal. Next is Executive Master of Business Administration. Here all the 3 students have secured the same CGPA, but we have differentiated the first, second, third rank based upon their SGPA of the final semester. So Vidya S stands first with the gold medal, Vijay PR stands second with the silver medal, and Abhishek Puri stands third with again a silver medal. All of them have got 9.43 CGPA in the final trimester. Bachelor of Business Administration, Kota Srinivas Manas has secured 9.12 CGPA and has bagged first rank and a gold medal. Rahul Nandapur has secured 8.98 CGPA with the second rank, and Jyoti Kumari has secured 8.92 with third rank and a silver medal. Coming to Bachelor of Commerce, Priyanka S has secured 9.23 with the first rank and a gold medal. Charan S Reddy 9.16 CGPA with the second rank, and Iyad Jafar 8.97 CGPA with third rank and the silver medal. Next we'll move on to School of Engineering, where there are departments of Bachelor of Technology in Computer Science and Engineering, Bachelor of Technology Electronics and Communication, Bachelor of Technology Computer Technology, and Bachelor of Technology in Mechanical Engineering, Bachelor of Computer Applications, and Master of Technology in Computer Science and Engineering. In Master of Technology in Computer Science and Engineering, Big Data, Monish L bags the first rank and the gold medal with 8.81 CGPA. Raj Lakshmi Patil secures 8.50 and gets second rank and a silver medal, and Lavanya S secures 8.48 CGPA with third rank and a silver medal. Coming to Bachelor of Technology in Computer Science and Engineering, Aditya Vardhan Singh tops the class with 9.37 CGPA and first rank and gold medal. Pinky B scores 9.36 CGPA with the second rank and silver medal. Ketineni Himabindu scores 9.31 CGPA, bagging the third rank and silver medal. Coming to Bachelor of Technology in Electronics and Communication Engineering, Mamata D secures 9.53 CGPA with first rank and the gold medal. Sushipa Samir secures 9.3 CGPA with second rank and the silver medal. Bhanupriya secures 9.19 CGPA with third rank and a silver medal. The next department is Bachelor of Technology in Computer Technology. Arsal Imtiaz secures 8.80 CGPA with first rank and the gold medal. Ashanya Kushwaha secures 8.36 CGPA with second rank and a silver medal. The next department is Bachelor of Technology in Mechanical Engineering. Here Samartha Dibur secures 8.85 CGPA with first rank and the gold medal. Rutesh Kumar R secures 8.78 CGPA with second rank and a silver medal. And Dhanush R secures 8.77 CGPA, third rank and silver medal. The next department is, the next degree is Bachelor of Computer Application. Here Ronak Prasad, he secures CGPA of 9.09. He has bagged the Dean's Medal for consistent academic performance and topping the class. Kriti Nayak has got first rank with the CGPA of 8.69 and the gold medal. Harshita G. Reddy gets the same CGPA but a lesser SGPA at the final year, so she gets the second rank and the silver medal. Ayush Kanchan gets 8.63 CGPA and the third rank and a silver medal. The next degree is Bachelor of Vocation in Tool Engineering. Natraj KV bags the first rank and a gold medal with a CGPA of 9.6. Maruti bags the second rank and a silver medal with 9.58 CGPA. The next degree is Bachelor of Vocation in Mechatronics. Here Gayakwad Mrinal Anil bags the first rank and a gold medal with 9.32 CGPA. The next school is School of Health Sciences. Under the School of Health Sciences, we have three colleges. One is College of Pharmaceutical Sciences, College of Nursing Sciences, and College of Physiotherapy. Coming to College of Pharmaceutical Sciences, we have Bachelor of Pharmacy, where Ashwini R scores 9.16 CGPA and a first rank and a gold medal. Anjali Sharan scores 9.08 CGPA with second rank and a silver medal. Darshan scores 9.06 CGPA with third rank and a silver medal. The next degree is Doctor of Pharmacy, which is called as PharmD. This is the first batch of Dayanand Sagar University. Doctor of Pharmacy is a 6-year course. So the 2015 batch is graduating now. Sapna Shri M, the first gold medalist of PharmD of Dayanand Sagar University, has scored 92.4% with the first rank and a gold medal. Syed Kamran Abbas has scored 90.6%, bagging the second rank and the silver medal. Hamad Kesi has scored 89.4% with third rank and a silver medal. Coming to the postgraduate programs of pharmacy, Master of Pharmacy in Pharmaceutics, Vaibhav Gokhale scores 9.20 CGPA with first rank and the gold medal. Jahanavi scores 9.13 CGPA with second rank and the silver medal. Nivedita Shenoy scores 9.09 with third rank and the silver medal. The next postgraduate program, Master of Pharmacy in Pharmacology, Jyotsna Shankar Karvi scores 9.16 CGPA with first rank and the gold medal. Rachna BP scores 8.94 CGPA and second rank. Karthik B scores 8.66 CGPA with third rank and the silver medal. Coming to College of Physiotherapy, Bachelor of Physiotherapy, Nagma Khan scores 79.29% with first rank and the gold medal. Kavyashri T scores 79.14% with second rank and the silver medal. Last but not the least, College of Nursing, Bachelor of Science in Nursing, Jeena Prasad scores 78.2% and bags the first rank and the gold medal. Thank you one and all, and once again I congratulate all the medalists and the PhD holders. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am, and congratulations to all the awardees and the medalists. I hereby request the chief guest, Dr. Vasudeva K. Atre, to deliver the convocation address.
Good morning, Chancellor Dr. Hemachandra Sagar, Prost Chancellor Dr. Premachandra Sagar, Vice Chancellor Professor K.N.B. Murthy, members of the Board of Governors, advisors and other officers and faculty, staff and students of Dayanand Sagar University, ladies and gentlemen. My greetings to all of you on this special day. It is indeed my pleasure and honor to deliver the 5th convocation address of this prestigious university. At the outset, my hearty congratulations to all the graduates, and may you all have wonderful career in the coming decades. During a convocation address, it is often customary to talk about one's lifetime experience or give never-ending bouquet of advices to the graduating class. I have decided to deviate from this custom, and instead, I want to share with you some information I have gathered which I consider important enough to all global citizens to know and appreciate. Of course, having puttered around science and technology for over 4 decades, I will also make some comments about science and technology. Age of this earth is approximately 4.5 billion years. The time-scale history of the earth is classified into eons, eras, periods, and epochs. We are at the present in Phanerozoic eon, 550 million years, and Cenozoic era of 66 billion years, Quaternary period of 2.6 million years, and Holocene epoch of 12,000 years. Recognizable humans have existed since the beginning of the Quaternary period. In the decade of 70s and 80s, Nobel Prize-winning Dutch chemist Paul J. Crutzen of the ozone hole fame and a limnologist Eugene Stover argued that this epoch should be called as the Anthropocene epoch, or the age of man, where the humans have had considerable impact on Earth's geology and ecosystem. Of course, for thousands of years, human beings had lived in harmony with nature, learning many things from nature and mimicking nature, but respecting nature. As science and technology evolved, we deviated from this and no longer lived in harmony with nature, thus creating the Anthropocene epoch. By the early part of this century, geological community began to investigate the scientific evidence for this concept of Anthropocene, and working groups were formed to consider this as a cultural concept and evaluate its societal implications. Some argue that the beginning of the Anthropocene should be considered as 1780, when the Industrial Revolution brought about unprecedented advancement in technology on the one hand, uprooting many cultural values on the other. You may recall that during this evolution, we started burning organically formed fuels to enable large-scale production and drive the growth of mining, factories and mills, and thus increasing the demand on coal. Of course, Industrial Revolution's contribution to the betterment of living standards can hardly be questioned. Others pushed the Anthropocene to 1945-46, when we dropped the first atomic bomb. The nuclear explosion at Alamogordo in July 1945, the so-called Trinity test, and the following events at the Bikini Atoll in 1946, with their mushrooming clouds, symbolized the destructive power of human species and our commitment to weapons of mass destruction. Whatever the period be, it is clear that our species and the human-centric developments and activities, perhaps triggered by unbelievable and unimaginable achievements in science and technology, and of course the belief that the earth is for Homo sapiens only, have dramatically and significantly impacted the earth and its inhabitants that will be everlasting, with perhaps potentially irreversible influence on the biosphere. Climate changes and global warming, stratospheric ozone depletion, aerosol loading of the atmosphere, interference with the global phosphorus and nitrogen cycles, chemical pollution, deforestation and reduction in biomass, acidification of oceans with the creation of dead zones, diminishing biodiversity and accelerated extinction of species faster than they have been for millions of years before, are some of the major implications, with innumerable subsidiaries and side effects. Clearly, notwithstanding the extraordinary progress we have made over the last few years, today's humanity faces several predicaments. Leaving aside the argument, philosophical or otherwise, of Anthropocene and concerns thereof, there are several real issues that we may have to address, like population growth and ensuring quality of living, etc. In the period of 100 years, in the 20th century, human population increased by 4 folds, and in the middle of the century it may reach 10 billion. This single issue will enormously stress the resources with the ensuing impact on the environment and the biosphere. Added to this, our indiscriminate and unwise use of Earth's resources has compounded this stress, and some argue that this scarcity of certain resources perhaps is threatening the very survival of humanity. Ironically, science and technology that seems to have inadvertently sowed the seeds of some of these problems, I do believe, can be turned around in our favor to solve many of these problems. For we are better equipped than ever before with knowledge and tools to understand what is happening and what needs to be done. Let me address a few of those resource-related issues. Of all the crises we face, water crisis is probably the most imminent and severe one. It is estimated that nearly 3 billion people face insufficiency of water. The dwindling water resources, in the World Bank's view, may inhibit the economic growth rate and UN warns a possibility of conflict over water. Clearly, there are several issues to be addressed here, from conservation and preventing wastage to reducing pollution, rainwater harvesting, improving distribution, to desalination and even extracting moisture from arid zone with 20% or less of humidity, etc., etc. Science and technology need find cost-effective implementable solutions to several of these. One of the indices of measuring the developmental status of a country is the per capita energy consumption. World energy consumption is about 600 exajoules, exa is 10 to the power of 18. And 80% of this is through fossil fuels like coal, petroleum, and natural gas, with nuclear, hydroelectric, and renewable providing 6%, 2.5%, and 10% respectively. Solar and wind energy amount to about 1%. In order to reduce the over-dependence on diminishing fossil fuels and to recover from their deleterious effect on the environment, global warming, acid rain, etc., there have been massive efforts to increase the wind and solar energy contribution. While cost of energy generation from the solar cells has dropped sharply over the last couple of decades, solar energy exploitation still poses a large challenge. A unique and indeed bizarre approach is to harness solar energy by positioning giant solar collectors in the outer atmosphere, convert that energy into microwave energy, and beam it to Earth through a process of wireless power transmission, and reconvert it to normal electrical energy at a remote location on the Earth, an idea mooted by Dr. Peter Glaser of NASA, using the fact that microwaves pass through cloud and dust. One could even look at the idea of Dr. David Creswell of NASA of generating terawatts of solar power on the lunar surface and use the microwave beaming technique to transfer it to Earth. There are several other techniques available as alternatives to fossil fuel to save us from environmental disaster. All these enormous efforts to reduce the dependence on fossil fuels are due to the phenomenon which is now familiar to all of us. While naturally occurring percentage of greenhouse gases trap about 30% of solar radiation, giving Earth an average surface temperature of 15 degrees, anthropogenic activities including deforestation and agriculture. Remember, rice field produces methane, a greenhouse gas, has led to the most talked about and threatening global warming through the greenhouse effect, with the surface temperature may rise to 3 degrees centigrade. Much has been said and written about this phenomenon, and I don't want to dwell on it, except to indicate its many effects like warming of sea surface temperature, its impact on marine life, changing sea levels and flooding of coastal habitats, altering ocean currents, melting snow caps and glaciers, changing of weather patterns and increase of extreme weather events affecting agriculture, growth patterns, etc. Carbon dioxide is the most commonly produced greenhouse gas. Carbon sequestration is the process of capturing and storing atmospheric carbon dioxide. It is one of the methods of reducing the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere with the goal of reducing global warming. Carbon dioxide can be sequestered by using subsurface saline aquifers, reservoirs, ocean water, aging oil fields, or other carbon sinks. Carbon sequestration describes the long-term storage of carbon dioxide or other forms of carbon to either mitigate or defer global warming. The process to reduce global warming and cool the planet has created a new but bizarre field of engineering called geoengineering. Besides sucking carbon dioxide from the sky, the idea is to physically cool the planet by stratospheric injection of aerosol scatterers, sulfate spraying, a process described by Curson in his 2006 paper. The idea to some extent was perhaps triggered by knowing that previous volcanic eruptions have caused cooling of the planet. The more bizarre idea is to have orbital mirrors on sun sails to reflect the sun rays and thus cool the planet. Ocean fertilization is another form of geoengineering that involves adding nutrients, dissolving iron, phosphorus and nitrogen, urea, etc. to the upper layers of the ocean to stimulate phytoplankton activity and through photosynthesis attempt to draw down atmospheric carbon dioxide. Food security remains an unfulfilled dream for over 100 million people, even 2000 years after Thomas Malthus. A very serious concern and indeed an almost insurmountable challenge is the supply of the first fast-growing population, especially in the developing areas of Asia and Africa. Though the rate of population growth is coming down, world population, as I said earlier, is projected to reach 10 billion by 2050. If the population increases as aforementioned or beyond, some experts predict that the food production system may collapse, which may ultimately result in decline of world population to reach an equilibrium at about 6 billion, which is optimal for this world. The main challenge is to increase the agricultural productivity and product production by wisely using biotechnology, exploiting and developing the vast ocean bed resources, etc. There are several more such issues and predicaments we face. We must prepare ourselves to address them through the application of technology or otherwise. Of course, technology for the Anthropocene has to be different. We have to remember that the key reason for both high levels of prosperity in many countries and the environmental degradation has been due to the extensive and to a large extent uncoordinated use of technology. The buzzword in today's technology is sustainability, implying that technology and its use should reduce the stress of ecosystems. Geoengineering is one such technology. Future technology developments must have an integrated approach with Earth as a system. There have been several studies on the education for Anthropocene. UNESCO has set up a group to study and come up with specific recommendations as to how to reorganize education. Recognizing that different pedagogy is essential once we accept that live for more than human world. Education is to be interdisciplinary, transdisciplinary, and cross-disciplinary, with ample emphasis on environmental education. Education in the Anthropocene requires participatory approaches because people need to be learning to work together and live with climate change, other environmental crises, as well as working across cultures and genders in addressing environmental issues. Just to quote a few lines from UNESCO report, humans are physical, biological, psychological, cultural, social and historical beings. This complex unity of human nature has been so thoroughly disintegrated by education, divided into disciplines, that we can no longer learn what human being means. This awareness should be restored so that every person, whoever they might be, can become aware of both their complex identity and shared identity with all other human beings. Our current approach to curriculum making can be summarized by the famous expression, seeing the forest but not the trees, or seeing the trees but not the forest. As I said earlier, that since the beginning of the humankind, our planet's global ecology has never been in such a critical state as it is today. But we have never been better equipped than the present, thanks to science and technology. Science and technology have completely changed the world over the last 200 years. Human life expectancy has doubled. We have learned how to communicate and travel rapidly across the entire globe. We are surrounded by television, computers, electric lights, cars, cell phones, and all kinds of things that would have been unimaginable even a century ago. Science is the systematic study of the natural world through observation and experimentation. Technology is the use of scientific knowledge for practical purposes to complete tasks that won't be possible without it. Technology can be super simple, like that of a wheel, or super complicated, like that of a personal computer. Either way, we are surrounded by it in our modern lives. Sometimes it may seem that technology only causes problems of complicating things. People may yearn for simpler life without cell phones beeping, without traffic jams, and without dangerous weapons. But truth is, science and technology, and of course engineering, have solved a lot of society problems and will continue to do so. Engineering is the interface between social needs and scientific knowledge. Engineering is the one which allows us to realize Sir Francis Bacon's philosophy that science is for the good of humanity. Engineering is a problem-solving profession, where after identifying a problem, we explore, set goals, look at alternatives, select a possible solution, implement and evaluate in succession, and if necessary, use feedback to go through the whole process. Engineers have the skill to turn product of imagination into real-world innovation. As humanity's knowledge and needs increase, the demands on engineering is growing. This means that the future will be full of new opportunities for engineers, technologists and scientists. Over the next 3 decades, we will see more development and changes in the field of science and technology and engineering than possibly ever before. A few of the challenges to be faced by the humanity are promoting green energy to improve sustainability and reduce carbon footprint, identifying viable alternative energy resources, addressing climate change through engineering innovations, designing new-looking cities with high quality of living. 50% of the world population live in urban areas, safeguarding our data and wealth against cyber attacks, feeding growing population through cutting-edge biotechnology and agricultural innovations, improving our health and well-being through life sciences, nanotechnology, and bioengineering, etc. While several challenges are facing scientists, technologists, and engineers, we are already well on our way to achieve several breakthroughs from harnessing technology for lowering pollution to building smart cities that pave the way for better living. Newer technologies are going to flood the market. Let me indicate just a few of such exciting things that's happening around the world. The advent of new generation robotics with AI technology and with possibility of a remote control through cloud computing, additive manufacture to create everything from 3D to wearables and smart clothing, AI technology to develop computers which can do human tasks while learning on the job, creation of flying robots, the popular drones to perform a host of operations from agriculture, disaster monitoring, neuromorphic technology to create chips which can mimic the human brain, technological solution for food scarcity through smart agriculture and vertical farming, etc. Challenges are aplenty, and so are the opportunities. We must also realize that technology has always been a double-edged sword. Technology which has taken our drudgery and helped us lead healthier lives can and has introduced new dangers. As it empowers us to control more and more of the world around us, we need to update our legal and, more importantly, our moral conscience as to what is appropriate for human intervention. We should be aware of the fact that technology has not brought about wisdom or reduced the intensity of human feelings. We should not forget that humans have moral and logical dimensions apart from physical and emotional ones. While the issues and challenges ahead of us, both globally and locally, keep changing with time, we have to be adaptive and flexible to respond to them, remembering what Albert Einstein once said. We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. Before I conclude my rather meandering lecture, let me revisit the concept of anthropology. Anthropocene. As I indicated, this concept is heralded as a new epoch distinguishing itself from foregoing ones in the history of the earth, characterized by overarching importance of the human species in the number of respects, but also by the recognition that human dependence and precariousness. The anthropos could Anthropocene could alter people's concept of how humans interact with the natural world. Humans have changed the earth in both positive and negative ways. The key challenge for the future is to ensure that the negative changes do not outweigh the positive ones. Optimizing human influence on the system of huge complexity has many dimensions: scientific, social, economic, and ethical, that interact with and should help to steer decision making towards more sustainable and equitable choices. There are still raging debates whether we have actually got to the event horizon, because potentially what's going to happen in the 21st century could be more significant impact on the nature. I leave you with final thought, put beautifully by Sir Francis Bacon: nature to be commended must be obeyed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for the insightful address. I now invite the Pro-Chancellor, Dayanand Sagar University, Dr. D. Premachandra Sagar, to share his vision.
The chief guest of the 5th annual convocation of Dayanand Sagar University, the venerated and highly respected Padma Bhushan and Padma Vibhushan, Dr. Vasudev Atre sir, the former scientific advisor to the Defense Minister, Government of India, the Chancellor of Dayanand Sagar University, Dr. Hemachandra Sagar, the Vice Chancellor of Dayanand Sagar University, Dr. K.N.B. Murthy, the Pro-Vice Chancellor, Professor Janardhan, the Registrar, Dr. Putmadappa, the Controller of Examinations, Dr. Anita Ramalingam, the Board of Governors, the Board of Management, the Academic Council members of Dayanand Sagar University, respected deans, principals, directors, chairpersons, faculty and staff of Dayanand Sagar University, and my beloved graduating students of Dayanand Sagar University. Good morning to all of you, and I would like to congratulate all our graduating students on this momentous day and in these changing times. Today is a day of celebration, a day to celebrate all the hard work that got you to this moment. Today is a day of thanks, a day to thank those who helped you get here, nurtured you, taught you, cheered you on, and dried your tears. Today is a day of reflection, because today marks the end of one era of your life and the beginning of something new and exciting as the years of yours roll by. 2 years ago, COVID-19 forced many companies, many organizations, many institutions to send their employees, their people, their human resources home, often with a laptop and a prayer. We had hoped that the COVID cases would subside amidst increasing vaccinations. The prospect of returning to old routines, the good old days that we enjoyed of intermingling, appeared possible. But will employees, people in organizations, and the students at large would want to return back to their original routine? This was something that we had hoped for. But sadly, while we had anticipated that the COVID pandemic would morph itself into an epidemic, unfortunately the mutant Omicron is threatening us to break out into a third wave. And unless we take adequate precautions and practice COVID safety measures, I believe we are yet again going to embrace one of the most tumultuous and challenging times that mankind would have witnessed in this century. We had hoped to have grand celebrations for this year's convocation, because the last year's convocation was something which we had envisaged to be grand did not happen. But sadly, we were unable to do so. And it is with a very heavy heart that I have to echo that we have to restrict ourselves to a virtual convocation, keeping in view of the safety as well as to abide by the state government's directive of not allowing social and academic events at universities. Many of you graduating students will now enter into a strange and untested work world. We at Dayanand Sagar University have tried our best in difficult times to prepare all of our graduating students for an uncertain world. In this, I see an opportunity too. We were forced to innovate to keep our high standards of education and deliver class sessions of quality, even if it was online. We succeeded thanks to the huge effort that our faculty, our deans, and everybody in the university attempted to do so. This is also a year that we are celebrating the centenary of the birth of our founder and my father, late Barrister Dayanand Sagar, a multifaceted man who strode this world like a colossus and who was much ahead of his time in envisioning a need for great institutions of higher education. I promise you that as a university, we will leave no stone unturned in driving excellence in the years to come across diverse areas of learning. Many of you are probably aware of the brilliant campus that we have designed and is being constructed on the outskirts of the city. The School of Medicine has already started functioning over there, and very soon we would have the School of Technology and other schools migrate into this wonderful campus, which I believe would be a crucible and an ecosystem where both the mind and matter would meet and rejoice together. We are also aware that great institutions are built on the back of great human resources, and we will pursue passionate teachers to collaborate and work with us. While we celebrate the progress of our young university, let us admit that Indian higher education today suffers from three serious issues. One, inadequate competition among the better institutions. Two, inadequate experimentation. And three, inadequate measurement of outcomes. While, if I would start dwelling, it would go across, I would have to get down into great depth. But I would like to restrict myself on one area. Something which is very evident is the serious lack of experimentation among Indian higher education. The Indian education system reminds one of the endlessly rotating wheels with no traction or end in sight. There is a certain mind-numbing uniformity to the path which the average upwardly aspiring family desires for its progeny. This is, to put it mildly, sad. All the ample research on education, not to mention common sense, suggests that the phrase "different strokes for different folks" is a better description of what India's youth need. Institutions should specialize not just in classroom learning, but in vocational skills, experiential learning, experimental learning, and many other modes. While there are localized pockets of such experimenting in India, they are sufficiently scarce as to not make much of a difference. At Dayanand Sagar University, we are seized of the necessity to innovate and experiment, and I urge all our faculty, staff, and students to drive adventure and exploration. Experiments without fear and drive research. There is no other way, and I would advise our faculty to unburden themselves of legacy and innovate in research, pedagogy, and mentorship. Time is scarce as we compare ourselves against the very best in the country, and I'm very clear that we will be world-class when we deliver world-class outcomes. A Tibetan proverb so beautifully said, "A child without education is like a bird without wings. All of you have wings, and you will fly, and you must fly." Even as the graduating students leave the portals of this university, you are going to be challenged. While we might have the most educated population ever that this nation would have seen in this century, these degrees aren't necessarily giving people the practical skills that they need. Remember, the world is changing. Just like how the pandemic has gotten disruption, the world of tomorrow is something different. While singularity is approaching, we must understand that singularity will bring in a complete change in the way with which we deal with human life and the way that we would go across in managing our affairs. As the world gets more automated, there is going to be a large challenge for many of us. And this is where, the challenge of automation can completely disrupt our current days and that of the past. Time-tested models of yesterday would not work tomorrow. While we engage ourselves, just imagine that how would the world of tomorrow, where artificial intelligence would be very perverse in our every walk of life, where we believe that established models would suddenly undergo change, where our learnings of yesterday will have to be de-learned to understand something which is going to be different, that the world is going to be seen, where presentation of our skills become paramount, and the ability to innovate and change our requirement to skills of tomorrow becomes necessary for us to become productive. Imagine the world of tomorrow when you as young folk, walk towards it, maybe in the next 20 years or the 30 years, when you have the natural intelligence migrate into the next phase of what we call as the artificial general intelligence, and then onward to artificial superintelligence. And that is the period of time when all of the new generation of what we call as the generation of the current world will have to innovate, and then will have to lead the world forward. And remember that you are one of the most valuable things that this country has ever turned out. And you will have to, as you go forward in your life, you will probably have to bring in those changes or probably participate in the kind of disruption where you will become trendsetters. The geopolitical nature of the world has changed now. No longer can what we call as the established norms of the developed world. The emerging world has now gone ahead to become trendsetters and show path to the established world. We have seen the last millennium where we have seen the transition of powers, and this generation of yours will see that you will be able to position this mighty nation into the forefront of technology, into the forefront of leading human thought and behavior. So you are a part of that world, and I believe for you to go across reskilling and continuously building skills throughout your career are important to bring about lateral and indeed vertical career transitions for all ages, but will be particularly vital for this new graduate demographic as they strive to keep with the skills and work of the future. What you need to do across is something that I will offer 3 points as a mantra. Think about the skills that you have and the job you want in the immediate term and probably in the years that would roll ahead and forward. 1, identify the key soft skills or power skills you have and need. You can then see where you have gaps and put learning goals in place to fill them. Examples of important power skills include critical thinking, problem solving, communication, and learning agility. Learning agility is your most important skill because it means you have the curiosity and the motivation to continuously learn new skills throughout your career. 2, consider core technical skills you have that are likely to stay in high demand, such as digital literacy, data science, analytics, and then try to build upon these skills. 3, focus on portable skills that will be critical regardless on what field you enter. Highlighting your transferable skills will showcase your abilities in unique ways. You must understand that the world of tomorrow is something that will evolve and change very frequently. And I'm sure that having had the privilege of going through the tutelage of some of the finest teachers and some of the very strong academic leaders who have groomed you over these 3 or 4 years of your time in the portals of the university, you are better equipped. Finally, in bidding you goodbye and wishing you wonderful lives and great careers, I would like to recall the words of the great Steve Jobs, and I quote, "Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Don't be trapped by dogma, which is living with the results of other people's thinking. Don't let the noise of others' opinion drown your inner voice. And most important, dare to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to become. Everything else is secondary," unquote. With these words, and with a heart full of gratitude to Almighty, and I'm sure I would wish upon every one of those graduating students the brightness that the sun can offer you, and a career that is successful, that will make the alma mater proud of every single achievement that you would pursue in your walk of life. Wish you all the best. God bless you. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Thank you very much, sir. I now request and invite Chancellor, Dayanand Sagar University, Dr. D. Hemachandra Sagar, to deliver the presidential address.
Dear friends and graduating students, I feel nice and bad today. The reason is I am not able to see you and handing you the graduating certificates. It would have been an immense pleasure to see you physically and hand over the hard-earned degree which you people have got. But anyway, on the 5th annual convocation, we have with us Dr. Vasudev K. Atre, who is the Padma Bhushan and Padma Vibhushan awardee, former Director General of Defense Research and Development Organization, former scientific advisor to Defense Minister, Government of India. And we have our Honorable Pro-Chancellor, Dr. D. Premachandra Sagar. And we also have Dr. K.N.B. Murthy, the Vice Chancellor of the University, Dr. Anita Ramalingam, Controller of Examiners, and Dr. Putmadappa, the Registrar. My students, friends, staff, and media, it's a great pleasure as a Chancellor to be with you for the 5th annual convocation. But I would like to say, even though the convocation is meant for the graduating students, and for all the other students who will be graduating in the coming years, there must be a vision of life for everybody. This vision of life is very important when you are going through the curriculum of your degree, which you have spent 4 years in this campus. Some of you have spent 3 years in this campus. It's an honor to congratulate the doctorates, about 8 of them, who have got their PhDs. But all of us have got a social role. What is a social role? Upliftment of yourselves. Where do you grade 10 years from today? You are passed out of the portals of this university. This university degree is just a license. But this license ensures you that if you adapt that in your life, you will grow better. This is just a seed given to you. You have to water it, you have to nourish it, and you have to grow. And there's no limit for any growth. What I tried to emphasize, have the aim. 10 years from now, what am I? 15 years, what am I? 20, 25, and that's the lifestyle. Every person in their lives can do hard work only for 25 years in their life. If they can't achieve anything in this first 25 years of life, maybe that speed will not be there later. This is the physical system of the entire world, and nobody is exempted from this. But you guys who have passed out, maybe in pharmacy, maybe in engineering, maybe in arts, or whatever subjects which you have taken, you have to rededicate yourself to learn the basic principles of how you are going to lead and achieve and the aims. Once you make a roadmap on what you need, you will go high. At the same time, you have a social responsibility to discipline the entire community. When I say entire community, the community of our great country, India. Of course, some of you may go abroad, taking the morals of this great country. And I feel that you are the ambassadors of future wealth, and I wish you all the best in this convocation. Thank you.
Mr. Chancellor, I have the honor to request you, sir, to dissolve the convocation.
I declare the convocation dissolved.
Thank you, sir. I now request the Controller of Examinations, Dr. Anita Ramalingam, to deliver the vote of thanks.
I deem it a great honor and privilege to propose vote of thanks on this memorable occasion of the 5th convocation of Dayanand Sagar University. Let me first of all start by giving glory to Almighty and late Sri Dayananda Sagar for blessing us an occasion with resounding success. My sincere thanks to our chief guest, Dr. Vasudev K. Atre, who despite of his busy schedule, graced this occasion. Thank you, sir, for your words of encouragement. My heartfelt thanks to our beloved Chancellor, sir. Thank you, sir, for your wonderful speech and your constant guidance. I wish to express my gratitude to our mentor, guide, Dr. Premachandra Sagar. Sir, thank you for your inspiring words. My deep gratitude to Ms. Chintisha Sagar and Mr. Rohan Sagar for gracing the occasion. I am very grateful to thank our mentors, Galiswamy sir, Jairaj sir, Kincha sir, and all our academic council members. An event like this will not happen overnight. It requires planning and bird's eye view. We are fortunate to be backed by leaders like Vice Chancellor Dr. K.N.B. Murthy sir and Pro Vice Chancellor Professor Janardhan sir. I thank our Registrar Dr. Putmadappa, all our deans, our Chief Financial Officer, directors, principals, chairmen, staffs, and volunteers for extending their willingness to undertake various responsibilities. On this occasion, I need to thank all the staff of Examination Department of DSU who worked at it day and night. I thank all the delegates of this program for showing their interest. Last but not the least, I thank all the graduating students and their parents. DSU is extremely thankful for your understanding and acceptance of the situation. As the pandemic eases down, we are sure we will have many occasions to have you on the campus. Thank you one and all. Jai Hind, Jai Karnataka.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Your true success in life begins only when you make the commitment to become excellent at what you do. Brian Tracy. We wish you nothing but the success, and we want you all to commit that whatever you set to do, you do it exceptionally well, and may you excel in it. We hereby wish to let you know that once the pandemic settles down and we are able to breathe the free air without masking up and embrace our friends without thinking of social distancing, we will have you back at the university premise where we will celebrate your success together. We, Dayanand Sagar University, wish you all well. May you prosper in life and may you all be blessed with abundance. Be informed that you can start collecting your certificates from your respective schools from 3rd of January 2022. Take care and stay safe. We wish you all a very happy new year. This marks the end of 5th annual convocation ceremony of Dayananda Sagar University. I request you all to please rise for national anthem.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे।
We thank the Controller of Examinations, Dr. Anita Ramalingam, Chancellor, Dr. Hemachandra Sagar, Chief Guest, Dr. Vasudeva Atre, Pro-Chancellor, Dr. D. Premachandra Sagar, Vice-Chancellor, Dr. K.N.B. Murthy, Pro-Vice-Chancellor, Professor Janardhan, Members of Board of Governance, Mr. Rohan Sagar, Ms. Tintisha Sagar, and Mr. K. Jairaj, Registrar, Dr. C. Puttamadappa, members of the Academic Council. Thank you very much.